Brittany Van Voorhees. So I know that was very quick, but essentially the moral of the story is, yes, the planets are aligning. Like, if you think back to Hercules, the planets do align. It's just that based on the time of year and where they are on the horizon, if you look directly toward them, you might end up accidentally blinding yourself. Just like you're not supposed to look at the sun. We don't want you to blind yourself. Yeah, no. We don't want you to look at the sun and blind yourself.
We don't want to do that. Hey, and, our job, it sometimes might seem like we're just here to poo-poo on everything. We don't take a lot of pleasure in that. That's not what we're trying to do. But you're going to be disappointed either way. So we'd rather you set your expectations beforehand and at least have you know what you should look for. And so probably what you should do is, if you're going out there tomorrow evening, around sunset or just afterwards, forget those planets Brittany mentioned near the sunset. That's going to be too hard to see, and they're not as bright. But if it's a beautiful evening, which it probably will be, find the moon first off. That's going to be more in the south and the eastern sky, rather. And then look just to the right of that. There will be a big bright dot eventually. That should be Jupiter, and that should be easy for you to spot. And hey, that's at least something you can show your kids. And by the way, if you don't have a favorite sky app, I like Night Sky, I like Sky View. They both have free versions. Those are really cool things. You can just kind of grab your phone, hold it up to the sky, and it'll identify what you're looking at. I think that's super helpful and just a no-brainer if you have any interest in stargazing at all. So why not?
I have Skyview also, Tim. I completely agree. You can put it up too, and it has the constellations, and it just makes it easy. Even if we have like an eclipse or something, random like that, it makes it easy for you to be able to see where you're looking. So that's like the biggest thing when we do these stories. And it was funny because I actually saw it and was like, I'm going to do something about that. And then Brad posted something about it too. So I was able to use that Stellarium graphic that he sent me. But it is hard sometimes because we really don't want to seem like every single thing we're doing. Like, I feel like I've done a lot of stories on this, with like the Perseid meteor shower, right? Like 2 years ago, it was on a full moon. So my whole story was like, it's the best meteor shower of the year. You won't be able to see it. It's not to be like negative. It's because we want you to like have managed expectations instead of being disappointed, especially if you're spending like your whole day planning out, and going out to see it or for whatever reason. So it's not to be a bummer, it's to be a realist.
No. And it can be hard to find that good information. I have to do a lot of Googling every time I get ready to explain it to everybody else. So now you know.
Yeah. And we don't know everything. We have to do our research as well, because as the station scientists, we don't know every single thing about earthquakes / the planets / whatever. So
that's right. But we do know that we want you to have a good weekend. We thank you for being here with us, and enjoy the warmth when it comes back.
Yes. Tim, have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
Welcome in this evening here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. All right, so today, President Donald Trump was in Texas. He was in Corpus Christi, Texas, as the White House released a list of economic figures. It says reflects progress for Texas families, including lower fuel prices, tax savings, falling home prices, and billions in new private sector investment. Let's take you there to that speech in case you missed it from earlier today.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, and I'm thrilled to be back in the great state of Texas, which we won over and over again. Thank you very much. The gleaming shores of the Gulf of America. See, that's one of the things we do, if we did so much, that's like one of the, I don't want to call it a throw-in because it's very important, but it's like a little throw-in. I said, we ought to just sort of change the name. We have 92% of the frontage. But they were there first. They've been here 100 years longer. Gulf of Mexico, 100 years longer. Now it's the Gulf of America because we have 92%. I wouldn't say Mexico was thrilled, but they were fine. And I'm delighted to be here at this national treasure, one of the largest energy export hubs anywhere in the world, The port of Corpus Christi, we had a lot to do with it. That bridge, we had so much. What a nice bridge. Ooh, I like that color. What a nice bridge. And we dredged nice and deeply. I guess they said 54 feet or something. It's about as deep as you can go. I think we could go a few feet deeper, and then you could, you want to go a little bit deeper? What the hell? What the hell? It's only money. With the men and women here today, we're unleashing America's potential, strengthening our security, increasing our prosperity. We have the most successful country anywhere in the world. A year and a half ago, we had a dead country. Our country was dead. You know it better than anybody. And cementing America's status as the #1 energy superpower by far anywhere on earth. And I want to thank Venezuela because our relationship is a very good one. We're a very, very good one. We're having a very good relationship. That ship is from Venezuela. For 4 long years before I took office, the Biden administration, Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst presidents in history, not one of the, I have to think the worst. How could you can you get worse? Somebody said, please don't be political today. Okay, but he's the worst president we've ever had. And its allies in Congress waged a radical left war on American oil and natural gas like you've never seen before. They were killing our country and killing your area right here. In fact, they say if I wanted, if I ran for the mayor of Corpus Christi, would I win? Think so. What the hell? I looked at your job stats. You have done very well with Trump. They killed the Keystone XL pipeline. This is the Biden group. Here's the good news. In all fairness, he had no idea what the hell was happening. But it was his administration of horrible people, horrible, radical left people. No, he used the auto pen very well. There's never been anybody in history that used an auto pen like that. Almost conclusively. He piled crippling regulations on producers and refiners, imposed natural gas export ban, and slashed new leases for drilling by 95%. That's Biden. Under their Green New scam, one of the greatest scams in history, gasoline reached a peak of over $6 a gallon in some states, fueling the worst inflation in the history of our country. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country. You've heard me say this before, the fake news sitting back there. They say Trump exaggerated. It wasn't in history. They say it was 48 years. Okay, we'll take that too. In a way, 48 years sounds even worse if you want to know the truth. But they tell me it's 48 years. It's not. I think it's the history of our country. But whether it's 48 years or the history of our country, they're both pretty bad. Do we agree? But all of that changed my first day back in office. It all changed. Our country started coming back like never before. On day one, I declared a national energy emergency. I ended the Biden export ban, and I told our great Texas energy workers to very simply drill, baby, drill. Since my inauguration, U.S. oil production is now up by 600,000 barrels a day. Natural gas production is at an all-time record high by far. And today, right here in Corpus Christi, the price of gasoline is down to just less than, actually now, $2.30. I just left Iowa 2 weeks ago. $1.99, and then I passed another one, $1.85. It's happening. It's happening. So we're witnessing a historic American energy boom like we've never seen, and this port is right at the center of the action. So who lives here, or this area? Who lives? A lot of happy people here. It's nice to be loved, you know, it's nice to be loved. Thank you. Thank you. In my first term, I approved vital federal funding to deepen the channel and fully modernize the port of Corpus Christi. Since that crucial investment, companies have flocked here, creating tens of thousands of jobs and generating billions and billions of dollars in revenue for your community. Joe Biden came in and tried to cut off the port funding, immediately tried to cut it off. What we did, we had a tremendously successful first term, and he came in and tried to take away what we had. But today, the dock workers, we stopped them. And today, the dock workers, energy workers, and great people of Texas, once again, really have a president that loves our country, a president that fights for our country, and a president who's got your back. Nationwide exports of liquefied natural gas are up 37%. Think of that. And the past year, the highest level in American history, and going up a lot. Crude oil exports are up by hundreds of thousands of barrels a day. Venezuela, think of it, 80 million so far. We just started. 80 million barrels of fuel. Think 80 million barrels of oil. Think of what that means. Think of a stadium with 80,000 people. Now say 80 million. That's what we've taken, and it's great for Venezuela, and it's great for us. It's great for us, great for Venezuela. And a lot of it, like that, a lot of it comes right here. And with our new friend and partner, Venezuela, we're going to do a lot of other things. We're going to be doing a lot. We're having a great relationship with their government. Has anybody ever witnessed anything so beautiful, so decisive, and so popular with the people of Venezuela? It was very popular. In fact, 360,000 barrels of Venezuelan crude are right now sitting in the tanker on my left. It's a nice one. So where the hell does that one come from? For the benefit of both our nations, we're going to refine their oil right here in America and right here in Texas, and then export it to all over the world. We're going to keep some for ourselves. We're going to give some to them, and they're going to make more money than they've ever made before. We'll help build their country again, which was a disaster. And we're going to build it up, and we're going to benefit also, and that's the way it's supposed to be, right? It's going to be great. One person who has witnessed our energy turnaround firsthand is Jesse Robinson. Jesse? Come on up here, Jesse. He began his career at this port working on the front lines of railroad operations and has risen to become one of the port's key leaders. I can see that, by the way. You all know him, helping to drive the American energy surge. This is a surge like nobody's ever seen. Jesse, come on up and say a few words.
Wow. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, I've been on this cargo dock probably 1,000 times, but I never could have imagined standing at this podium at this very moment with all of you as we honor together what an irrefutably historical moment this is. In my role as Director of asset management here at the port, I see firsthand every day the valuable contributions by President Trump. I see the millions of dollars in federal funds invested in infrastructure that helps us serve our customers so they can then turn and serve the communities around the world. At this port, I have the honor of leading roughly 75 employees and contractors, most of which are here today. And I can tell you with utmost sincerity that every one of us takes great pride in our jobs, supporting this global gateway. We work hard and with humility. This waterway means something to us. It represents the economic opportunity for tens of thousands of families throughout this region. I want to thank my family for supporting my commitment to this port. I want to thank my team for their heart and grit. And I want to thank President Trump for recognizing their tenacity and value. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Jesse. Great guy and great family and hard worker. All hard workers. I'm a hard worker. We're all hard workers. Slashing energy costs. Hey, by the way, how did you like the State of the Union the other night? Huh? That was good. That was good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was fun. Did you see these people on my right, the way they just sat there? Some of them, how about Omar screaming like a lunatic. You looked at her bulging eyes, she's crazy. Get her the hell out of here. Omar and her friend, and her little friend sitting next to her. Slashing energy costs is among the most important actions we can take to bring down prices for American consumers, because when you cut the cost of energy, you just cut the cost of energy. Everything follows. Look, you're in an industry, a business, whatever you want to call it, a profession in many cases. Everything follows energy. Now, AI, they build these big plants. They say, how do you make your money? Information. Somehow I like oil better. I'm sorry. I think oil. If I had my choice, I have to stick with oil. In 12 months, we've driven core inflation down to the lowest level in more than 5 years. And in the last 3 months of 2025, it's been down to 1 point inflation, 1.7%. Nobody thought that. So we went from the highest inflation ever to low inflation. Everything took place. I've been here 1 year. Think of it, 1 year, a little bit more than 1 year now. Time flies. Time flies. Maybe we do one more term. Should we do one more term? Do one more term. One more. Well, we're entitled to it because they cheated like hell in the second one. So we would actually be entitled to it. But think of it, the price of eggs is down 60%. The cost of chicken, butter, fruit, hotels, automobiles, rent is lower today than it has been in years. And even beef is right now on the way down. It's coming down fast. Prices of almost everything is down. And we inherited a mess 1 year ago, a mess. And they came up with the word affordability. And I said, what are they talking about? They're the ones that caused it. They're cons, they're liars, not good. Other than that, we want to have unity. Let's have unity. To have unity, you need sane people on the other side. And when you watch them not stand up for a mother that just lost her daughter, or not stand up for a great, brave helicopter pilot that did so well and so amazing in Venezuela, or not stand up when I ask the question, stand up if you love our country, think of it, and you love great American patriots, but don't stand up if you don't, or if you love illegal alien criminals. And not one of them stood up. They got killed in that. At the end of the night, they were all standing up for anything because the word was, they are getting killed. Did you see they were passing notes all over the place? Stand up for anything, stand up. They were instructed, you know, they have terrible policy, terrible everything, but they do stay together, as bad as it is. But they were instructed, under no circumstances are you to applaud or stand up. So I say, stand up for a mother who lost her beautiful daughter, and they don't applaud. They sit there like, and eventually we just looked at him and said, you people are crazy. And they are. They're crazy. And we got to win the midterms. We brought this country back. We don't want to lose the midterm. We got to win the midterms. We got to get out. You got to get out, and we got to vote, and we'll keep it all going. Better even than it is now, as good as it is. Tuesday night, in my State of the Union address, I laid out the historic actions my administration is taking to put more money in the pockets of workers and families like those here today, the greatest people on earth. You built the country. And to ensure that we always keep America first. You know, they don't keep America first. They keep America.
All right, so that is President Trump from earlier in Corpus Christi, Texas. We'll get back to that on the other side of the break. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturderman. Well, let's head back now to Corpus Christi, Texas. Well, earlier we heard from President Donald Trump. Let's take a listen in.
Republican majorities in Congress, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And the average Texas family will save over $4,000 on their taxes this year alone, and much more next year. We gave you the best tax cuts anyone's seen. We also got you an interest deduction if you buy a car. You can, if you borrow some money to buy a car, you have a loan, you're allowed to deduct the interest for income tax purposes. Never happened before. But only if it's an American-made car. We put that in. We have cut a record number of job-killing regulations, slashing 129 old regulations for every one new regulation that we approve. So if we put a regulation on, we slash 129 old regulations, which is far and above what anybody's been able to do. We terminated the insane electric vehicle mandate where you had to have a car, like all-electric car, within a couple of years, yet it was not going to work. I mean, you don't mind driving 200 miles to get a charger, right? You ever see the signs? Charge, you're running out, you're running low, and they say, charging booth 112 miles to the right. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. But the mandate is over and the other radical attacks, and now you can go out and you can buy a gasoline-powered car, a hybrid, an electric car. You can buy whatever the hell you want. In 4 long years, the last administration got less than $1 trillion. So $1 trillion less, much less, of new investment came into the country. In less than 12 months, I secured commitments for more than $18 trillion. So think of it. For 4 years, think of it, what it does to a place like this. 4 years, much less than $1 trillion. Less than 1 year, more than $18 trillion. I would say that's the difference between making America great again and making America a major loser. A short time ago, we were a dead country. We were totally a dead country. The King of Saudi Arabia said it to me. I was over. They invested $2 trillion in our country. I was over there with other great countries, but the King of Saudi Arabia said to me, President, 2 years ago, you were a dead country. Now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. Can you imagine? The stock market has hit 53 all-time record highs since the election. Think of that in 1 year. Adding trillions of dollars in value, Americans' pensions and 401ks and retirement accounts, they're all through the roof. Who has a 401k? Wow. Is anybody unhappy with the job I'm doing? Your 401ks have doubled, right? Are they doubled? I have a policeman, I tell the story, same guy, I meet him, but this wonderful, tough policeman from New York, he's taking good care of us. And he said, sir, it's so good my married life has gotten so much better. Why? My wife thought I was a loser financially. I couldn't make any money because my 401k was dying for years. And now she thinks I'm the smartest financial genius ever. It's made my sex life good. It's made my life good. It's given me a tremendous boost in life, sir. This is a big, tough cop. He said, my wife treated me like a dog, and now she admires my financial genius, and I haven't done anything. My 401k has gone through the roof. So I said, thank you very much. But everybody's there, right? Everybody's up. Has anybody gone down with their 401k? Because if you do, you're a loser. You know? Nobody. And then, you hear these radical lunatics say, the stock market doesn't matter. Well, it does matter because they have 401ks, they have investments, they buy stocks without 401ks. It matters a lot. Our stock market's going through. We beat 50,000 on the Dow. They said when I got elected, if I could beat 50,000 by the end of my 4th year, it would be a tremendous miracle. And we then hit 7,000 on the S&P. And that was even tougher. They said there's no way that can be done. I did them both by the end of my 1st year. Not my 4th year, my 1st year. Which means you also did them both. So, so everybody's happy. And to help ensure that all Americans share in the gains from the rising stock market, I announced on Tuesday night that any worker whose employer does not provide matching contributions to a retirement account, my administration will begin matching your retirement savings with up to $1,000 a year. Nobody ever thought that's possible. And we passed a bill, the great big beautiful bill that the Democrats are, they're always saying, oh, the great big beautiful, they don't know. It's basically the great big beautiful tax cut bill, if you really want to look at it, probably more accurate name. Every parent can actively just activate all of their children's accounts. We have a new thing, and it was Michael and Susan Dell Computer. Go out and buy a Dell computer. They're great. Because he put up $6.25 billion in the Trump accounts, and it's for children. It's tax-free investment accounts for every American child, every single American child born rich. So millions and millions will be pre-funded courtesy of the U.S. Treasury, and private individuals like Michael and Susan Dell who have donated think of it, $6 billion. He put up $6.25 billion, and now he wants to put up more to fund what's called the Trump accounts for 25 million American children, and that number is growing rapidly all the time. So these children, they reach 18 or 19 or 20, they could have over 100,000. They could have much more than that. Think of it. They'll be like rich. They started with nothing and a small amount of seed money, and by the time they're 18 years old, they could have well over $100,000. And to make this investment in our children's future, go to trumpaccounts.gov. It is amazing. It's going through the roof. One American who is benefiting tremendously from our tax cuts is Kevin Rhodes from Andrews, Texas. Kevin is a Marine Corps veteran who has spent 20 years in the oil and gas industry. Great guy, just met him. He works as a wells tech in Permian Basin, where he averages 15 hours a week in overtime. Now, there's no tax on overtime anymore, Kevin. As a result, Kevin and his wife, Marcy, will take home more than $7,000 extra this year thanks to no tax on overtime, with money that they are going to take. The two boys are on a road trip to Yellowstone National Park. Nice place. Well, you could save the money or you could buy a house or do whatever the hell you want with it, right? But you know what? I'd like to have Kevin and Marcy come up. They're so happy. No tax, in this case, overtime. But think of it. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for the seniors. So who the hell else could have gotten that? Come on up, Kevin.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a huge honor to be here in Corpus Christi, Texas, with everyone here. Thank you to Oil and Gas Workers Association also. I stand here as a Marine Corps veteran, raw, with my wife, who is a small business owner. We own a small catering company. We are products of the oil and gas industry of West Texas. We send our oil here to Corpus Christi to send out across the world. With the legislation that has been passed with a no tax on overtime, we were able to buy a commercial refrigerator for our business. And then, like Mr. President said, we're going to take our kids on a trip to Yellowstone and Grand Teton. We are just Americans, two parents trying to give the best life to their children. Opportunities for both of our sons, one who is in automation fixing to go into the oil and gas industry. We have big dreams and are excited for the future of this nation and our family. We are grateful that God has given us a president like Mr. Trump that allows us to we are grateful that he has put America first. So God bless you, Mr. President, and God bless this nation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Good luck with it. You have a good life, okay? Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much, both. So we're also grateful to be joined by a man who's, they say, the most talented man in the oil industry, Doug Burgum, who, as you know, is a great gentleman. He was former governor of North Dakota. I wanted to put him at energy. He said, sir, I'm really good at energy, but there's one man that's better, and his name is Chris Wright. So I made Chris Wright the Secretary of Energy, and he has really proven to be fantastic wherever you are, Chris. Where is Chris? Thank you. And he's got a beautiful hat. Beautiful. I love the hat. Gulf of America. I love that hat. We have one of the great governors of our country. He is an unbelievable guy, a tremendous friend of mine, and he is something very special. He's tough as hell, I want to tell you. If you think he's a nice guy, you're wrong. He's tough, he's mean, but it's all for you. So I want to just say, Greg Abbott, we love you, Greg Abbott. Good. Lieutenant Governor.
All right, so that's President Trump from earlier in Corpus Christi, Texas. Let's head to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. So today, protesters gathered in uptown Charlotte outside a local developer's office to protest claims that the company is looking to sell a Concord property to the Department of Homeland Security for an ICE detention center. Let's take you now to that press conference again that happened in uptown Charlotte earlier today.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamila Espinosa, and I'm an immigration attorney here in the city of Charlotte. Every day I sit across from people who are fighting for their lives in our immigration systems. Today I want to talk to you about warehouses. Not an abstract policy, not politics, warehouses. Because across this country we are seeing a dangerous trend. Industrial warehouses, buildings designed to store goods, being considered to be used as immigration detention facilities. And I'm here to clearly say, as well as my members of Indivisible, that human beings are not inventory. Warehouses are built for pallets, they're built for goods, they're not built for children, not built for families, and they're certainly not built for people that have faced trauma. And they are not built for justice. As an immigration lawyer, I represent asylum seekers. I represent people who fled persecution, violence, political repression. I represent mothers who've crossed the borders holding their children because they believe that America meant safety. Let me tell you about one of my clients. She was detained in a facility that was never meant to hold her long term. She slept under bright lights, never fully turned off. She struggled to receive medical care, never having access to see her children, her American-born children. Hearings delayed, calls dropped, legal documents lost, and her due process rights not guaranteed. But they are guaranteed under the Constitution. When detention is placed in industrial zones, far from community oversight, far from legal services, far from public accountability, it does not just detain people, it isolates them. And isolation erodes justice. I'm wearing a shirt today with a bear draped with the American flag. To me, this bear represents resilience, it represents protection, what my clients seek, the promise that America stands for something bigger than fear. This flag is not a symbol of cages, it's a symbol of liberty, a symbol of due process, and it's a symbol of equal protection under the law. If we believe in this flag, then truly believe in it, then we cannot allow buildings meant for storage to become places of confinement for vulnerable human beings. This is not about one company, about one corporation. This is about corporate responsibility. Developers and property owners across the country are being asked, or may be asked, to sell or lease their industrial properties for these detention centers. And I ask those corporations, as well as members of Indivisible, and as a lawyer who sees the human costs every day, to not do so. You may say it's legal because legality is not the same as morality. You may say it's just business, but business decisions shape our community. And you may say it's not their responsibility, but when you choose how your property is used, you do make a moral choice. Warehouses lack the infrastructure necessary for humane long-term detention. They're not designed with adequate medical facilities. They're definitely not designed to hold children. And they are not designed to safeguard constitutional access to counsel. When you convert these industrial spaces into detention spaces, you create environments where due process becomes harder and oversight, which we've already seen with existing detention facilities, becomes weaker, and suffering becomes easier to ignore. And let me be clear about something. Detention is not a neutral act. Detention determines whether someone can meaningfully access their lawyer. It determines whether a child sleeps next to their parent. And detention determines whether someone who has suffered long-term trauma carries those scars moving forward. I have clients who have won their asylum cases in detention. Yes, they won them and they're free living here in the United States. Yet they carry scars from the months and years they've spent in detention. Scars that did not need to exist. Corporations have a choice and they can say, we will not participate in expanding these detention infrastructures. They can say our properties will not be used to warehouse human beings, and they can choose to stand over with community over confinement. Because when corporations refuse, it sends a message. Human dignity, it's not for sale. Industrial convenience will not override constitutional values. We can enforce laws without abandoning humanity. We can build communities without building cages, and corporations can still profit without participating in harm. So today, we ask developers, landlords, and corporate leaders everywhere, if you are approached with proposals to use your warehouses for immigration detention facilities, say no. Say no not because of politics, say no not because of principle, say no because the Constitution deserves infrastructure designed for justice, not storage, and say no because the flag represents liberty, and liberty does not belong in a warehouse. Thank you all for giving us this time and space.
Next, we're going to hear from Samantha Turner. She's with the North Carolina Poor People's Campaign.
Good morning. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming out today in this weather. I'm Samantha Turner. I'm representing the North Carolina Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. Today we must speak plainly. Building ICE detention camps in our city, anywhere in this nation, is a moral failure. Building ICE detention, it is not about safety, it's not about order, it's not about justice. It's about criminalizing brown bodies. It's about profiting from cages. It is about expanding a system that has already torn families apart, traumatized children, and destabilized entire communities. Detention centers are not solutions. They are warehouses for human beings. We know what happens inside these facilities. Overcrowding, medical neglect, abuse, people denied due process, people denied for months, detained sometimes for years without conviction or any crime. We know the stories of mothers separated from their children, of workers disappeared from job sites, of our neighbors taken in unmarked vehicles by masked agents. And now they want to build more of it. More cages, more contracts, more concrete poured over the moral foundation of our communities. At a time when our schools are underfunded, when families cannot afford rent, when rural hospitals are closing, when working people cannot survive on poverty wages, when hurricane recovery remains incomplete, when mental health services are scarce, when affordable housing is out of reach, they tell us there is money for detention centers. This is a moral contradiction. If we have public dollars, they should go to housing, not building cells, to clinics, not cages, to living wages, not locked doors, to disaster recovery, not deportation infrastructure. The Poor People's Campaign teaches that policy is a reflection of moral priorities. So what does it say about us if we choose to expand detention camps instead of expanding health care? If we fund incarceration instead of education? If we build fear instead of belonging? We refuse to normalize the disappearance of our neighbors. We refuse to allow private corporations to profit off human suffering. We refuse to let North Carolina become a testing ground for mass detention. Real safety comes from stable housing, from good jobs, from strong schools, from health care, from commitments in communities where people know one another and care for one another. Real safety comes from investing in people, not imprisoning them. This is not just an immigration issue. This is a poverty issue. This is a racial justice issue. This is a democracy issue. This is a moral issue. And moral issues demand moral courage. We call on elected officials to reject these contracts. We call on faith leaders to speak out. We call on workers to refuse complicity. We call on communities to organize. because history will ask us what we did when cages expanded. And we will be able to say, we stood up, we spoke out, we chose people over prisons, we chose dignity over detention, we chose justice over fear. That is the moral arc we are bending, and we will not stop until every person's humanity is recognized. Not as a slogan, but as public policy. Thank you.
Crescent Communities has had a proud legacy and claims to foster a culture of inclusion and belonging and taken the right path over the easy one, utilizing their properties intended for industrial use as human detention centers is in direct conflict with their company values. Our immigrant neighbors are the backbone of our community. They deserve dignity, safety, and basic humanity. They are undoubtedly a critical part of the success and profitable outcomes of this company, which is why we are calling on Crescent Communities to take action with the following demands. Pledge not to allow your industrial warehouses to be sold or leased for human detention, and commit that you will not make any such future plans or agreements with DHS or ICE. Denounce the misappropriation of any industrial zone property use as inhumane, unsafe detention camps without the infrastructure or facilities to support it. And proactively work to protect the communities you champion from the damaging impact of detention facilities. Increase surveillance, enforcement, and a strain on roads, water systems, public resources, and emergency services. We understand that Crescent Communities has stated that it is not currently in communication with ICE or DHS for a proposed sale or lease. However, we respectfully ask that you continue to act as a responsible community partner and business leader by standing up for humane values and upholding your mission to build community, better people's lives. We simply request a clear, proactive public statement and pledge declining participation in detention-related property transactions, which would demonstrate alignment with your stated values and provide reassurance to the broader community. Thank you. Sure.
Crescent has said that they have no interest in this facility currently. They also mentioned that the zoning is being there for it to be built on their site. They simply said they showed up on a leasing form or a list of vacant properties. So if there is a document that shows they were vacant, they were interested in renting with DHS, why protest them if they don't have any intention of doing any sort of thing?
We are simply requesting that they issue, if their plan and their intent is not to sell or lease their property for that use, then we're simply asking for a public statement that says that.
And it's not just about Crescent Communities. This is across not just Charlotte or the Concord communities, just not North Carolina, but across the United States. We know they showed up on a list because the Department of Homeland Security is interested in those properties. And we want those corporations to stand along with the communities and hear our voice. And this is a venue that we can have our voice heard and show that, great, you're saying via statement that your property is not being considered at this time. You are not in formal talks. That's wonderful. Can you make a public reassurance to this community that in the future, if the Department of Homeland Security seeks to lease or purchase this property, that you would not move forward with that? And it's not just about Crescent Communities, this is about all corporations. Escogimos este lugar lugar porque Crescent Communities es una corporación que apareció, lo que indica el New York Times, en una lista de que el Departamento de Seguridad está considerando una propiedad que ellos tienen, una bodega industrial. Y nosotros estamos aquí para ser la voz que no es un centro apropiado, los humanos no deben de estar puestos en bodegas industriales y no es necesariamente para Crescent Communities, es para las comunidades en todos los Estados Unidos, no solamente Carolina del Norte, que queramos alzar la voz que estos tipos de detenciones no son justos, no son humanos y que quisiéramos que estas corporaciones digan públicamente que si en el futuro desea el Departamento de Seguridad Nacional llegar a un acuerdo para usar esos centros industriales como centros de detención, que ellos no firmarían esos acuerdos. Okay, I just want you to know, she's just so quiero decirle para que ellos entiendan, she's just asking have we received information from Crescent Communities, so I'll tell her in Spanish that we have and why we're here. Okay. So si hemos recibido notificación de parte de ellos a través de un correo electrónico informando que no están en discusiones para acuerdos para comprar la propiedad ni llegar a un acuerdo a rentar la propiedad, pero todavía nosotros le estamos sugiriendo a ellos, pidiéndole a ellos que nos den una aclaración pública, que si en el futuro el Departamento de Seguridad Nacional quisiera llegar a un acuerdo, que ellos van a decir no. Y eso no es solamente para esta corporación, que sí ha dicho que no están en acuerdos ahora mismo, pero todas las corporaciones, no solamente aquí en Carolina del Norte, pero todos los Estados Unidos, que nuestra comunidad, que el público no quiere que lleguen a estos tipos de acuerdos, porque estas bodegas industriales no son áreas en que humanos deben de estar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so let's head to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. So today, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani was back in New York City speaking a day after a trip to the White House for a undisclosed meeting with President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. But let's take you now to his address today. Let's take a listen to it.
Good morning and welcome to Weeksville Heritage Center. We are honored to gather with Mayor Mamdani, our elected officials, partners, and community members as we mark the completion of the exterior restoration of the Hunter Fly Road houses. You can give this. You can clap for that. Before we begin our formal program, it is my pleasure to introduce this morning's opening performance. Nia Simone Egerton is a composer and cellist who works on emotional storytelling and immersive narrative. A graduate of Berklee College of Music, she previously served as composer and arranger for Weeksville's Black Visionaries Weeksville Then and Now project, which was amazing. And we are honored to have her back today. The pieces you will hear pay homage to those who dared to dream, whose resistance took the form of reflection, contemplation, and the courage to build community. In this music, you will hear echoes of land, memory, and the quiet strength that defines Weeksville. So please join me in welcoming Nia Simone Egerton and our extraordinary quartet made up of Leandria Lotz on violin 1, Fabien Jean on violin 2, Imani Abdul Hamid on viola, and Malcolm Melendez on cello. These tomes are not symbolic. They are physical proof of what free black New Yorkers built in 1838, 11 years after the abolition of slavery in New York State. They are proof of ownership, education, enterprise, and civic life at a time when this nation denied black people full rights and full protection. Before I continue, I want to recognize our elected officials and partners who are here with us today. I believe Latrice Walker is here. We have outgoing DCLA Commissioner Lori Cumbo. And while not elected officials, I do want to acknowledge the Mellon Foundation, who's been critical in maintaining our preservation efforts. We are grateful for your presence and your leadership. I also want to thank Mayor Mamdani for his support and the city's investment in this restoration. Thank you to the New York City's Department of Cultural Affairs, the Brooklyn Borough President's Office, the New York City Council, and the Department of Design and Construction for making this project possible. I also want to acknowledge our state representatives who have been steadfast supporters and partners of this work. And I want to acknowledge this is important. Everyone's important so far, but important. The dedicated staff and board of Weeksville Heritage Center. Thank you. Your scholarship, stewardship, and persistence made this moment possible. This restoration reflects your belief that history matters. I also want to recognize the talented team of CTA architects, whose knowledge, skill, and care made this physical restoration possible. So let me be clear. This is not simply Black history. This is American history. Yes. Right? Weeksville tells the story of Americans who believed in property ownership, civic participation, education, and economic independence. It tells the story of people who built institutions when institutions would not build for them. It tells the story of self-determination in its most concrete form. At a time when there are efforts across the country to narrow the telling of our past, to sanitize it, or to suggest that some stories are less worthy of preservation, this restoration sends a different message. Black history is foundational, it is not optional, it is not peripheral, it is central to the American story. So no matter how much some may wish to diminish these truths, Black communities have endured. The Hunterfly Roadhouses stand as quiet but powerful witnesses to that endurance. But this moment is not only about the past, it is also about the present. Weeksville was founded as a refuge, a place where free Black New Yorkers could build homes, educate their children, and protect one another from slave catchers who hunted Black people in the streets of this city. It was a sanctuary in a hostile landscape. When you stand inside these homes, and I've done this many times, you feel how small they are. You imagine the courage that it took to build a life here, to claim space, and to plant roots in uncertain soil. Today, we continue that work. In a time when many marginalized communities move through their daily lives with uncertainty, when some fear detention, targeting, or separation from their families by the very same systems meant to protect them, Weeksville stands as a reminder that sanctuary is part of our history. It is also part of our responsibility. The founders of Weeksville understood something essential. Freedom without financial self-determination is fragile. Land ownership was strategy, property was protection, and economic independence was power. And we know what happens when that power is attacked. From Seneca Village here in New York, to Greenwood in Tulsa, to Rosewood in Florida, we have seen thriving Black communities dismantled and generational wealth destroyed. We have seen economic success punished and prosperity erased. The theft of land and the destruction of wealth are not distant history, they are recurring patterns. We see echoes of that instability today in economic precarity that disproportionately impacts Black women, in immigrant families afraid to go to work or school, in communities navigating systems that too often undermine hard-won progress. The through line is clear. When economic stability is threatened, community stability is threatened. When wealth is destroyed, opportunity contracts. This is why preserving these homes matters. They are not only reminders of what was built, they are reminders of ownership, dignity, opportunity, and the right to build prosperity without fear, and these ideals must be protected. This restoration was more than facades, windows, and foundations. It was about fortifying memory. It was about ensuring that future generations can stand where we stand and understand that freedom here was lived, organized, and defended. Louise Brown Lloyd, who grew up in one of these houses, said it best: "We were, we are, and we will continue to be." This is not nostalgia, it is a declaration of continuity. Together, we ensure these stories are told in full. Together, we insist that the American story belongs to all of us, not just a privileged few. And together, we commit to safeguarding spaces like Weeksville so that truth has a home and sanctuary has an address. Thank you. Give it up for that, please. Please, please. So thank you for joining us today for this special occasion. And now it is my honor to introduce Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
Good morning, everyone. It is truly a pleasure to be here, and I want to say thank you so much for your introductory remarks. Before we speak about the Weeksville Heritage Center, I want to share a few words about my recent visit to the White House. Yesterday, I did something that I am truly reluctant to do. I left New York City. I traveled down to Washington, D.C. to meet with President Trump in the Oval Office. I have said time and again that our city faces an immense affordability crisis. It is felt by residents here in Weeksville, across Brooklyn, and across the 5 boroughs of the city that we all love and call home. And it's felt whenever New Yorkers try to find a place to live, go grocery shopping, put their kids in childcare, or even take public transit. Addressing this crisis was the focus of my meeting with the President. I proposed working together to build more than 12,000 new homes in our city, which will be the single largest housing development New York City has seen since 1973. The President was interested in the idea, and I look forward to the ensuing conversations about how to build more housing in a city that doesn't have enough of it. We also discussed the immigration cases I know are front of mind for so many New Yorkers. I shared my concern with the President about ICE's detention of Columbia student Elmina Agayeva yesterday morning, as well as the detention of 4 additional New Yorkers in relation to the university: Mahmoud Khalil, Mohsen Mahdawi, Yunseo Chung, and Nika Kordia. I asked that their cases be dropped. I'm grateful that shortly after our meeting, the President called me to inform me that Elmina would be imminently released, and indeed she was. Now I want to speak about the reason that we are together today, the Weeksville Heritage Center. What a gift, truly, it is to be here with all of you. Thank you to the string quartet. If we can have another round of applause for the incredible performance, truly. For beginning this event on such a celebratory note. And my deepest gratitude as well goes to Dr. Raymond Codrington and the staff of the Weeksville Heritage Center for preserving historic Weeksville's remarkable legacy for all of us. I am struck by the way that this center honors the past while existing firmly in the present and charting a course for our future. Whether it's yoga classes or movie screenings, you have created a space for both Black joy and Black memory. And I want to say thank you as well to Afia Atamensa, the Chief Equity Officer of New York City, from our administration here with us. Thank you to my former colleague, Assemblywoman Latrice Walker. Also say thank you to the DDC team members that worked so hard on this project. That's right. They should get their props. I want to say thank you to Woon Lam, to Suzanne Lee Kim, Alexandra Ramos, Anthony Saxon Joseph. I also want to say thank you to the Capitol team at the Department of Cultural Affairs, with a special shout out to Victor Meteor, who shepherded this project from the start, and to say thank you to our outgoing Commissioner Lori Cumbo, and I'm also told that Commissioner Cumbo's mother may be in the audience as well. So we want to say thank you to you as well, ma'am. And at some point we may be joined by the Deputy Brooklyn Borough President, Kim Council. Now today we mark the completion of the renovation of the Hunter Fly roadhouses, where Black New Yorkers gathered, organized, and raised their families long before the Civil War led to emancipation. Just 11 years after New York State outlawed slavery, Stevedore James Weeks bought 2 lots here in 1838. At the time, New York had a law that stated all white men were entitled to vote, but that Black men had to own $250 worth of property to do the same. James Weeks built his own home, and then he built and sold homes to other Black people, to recently freed slaves along the eastern seaboard. And in that way, he created a community of voting Black landowners. By 1855, Weeksville was home to more than 500 free Black New Yorkers, sustained by their own shops, schools, nursing home, orphanage, newspapers, and churches. Weeksville was a sanctuary, as we heard before, a sanctuary of safety, of dignity, of opportunity in the face of injustice and systemic racism. It was the physical embodiment of black resilience and resourcefulness, a place where black New Yorkers not only had the vision to imagine something greater, but the determination to also build it for themselves. In this center, we see reflected the countless choices that led to the haven that was Weeksville. It was a choice for James Weeks to build the community that would become a sanctuary for escaped slaves, to publicize the fact of Weeksville in the South. Because of that action, 30% of this community, of its residents, were Southern-born. It was a choice to make the Freedmen's Torchlight a newspaper that not only delivered the news of the day, but taught Weeksville's recently freed residents the alphabet and doled out educational material on how to live on your own. It was a choice to ensure the idea of a safe haven was built into Weeksville's very DNA, so that years after its founding, black New Yorkers again sought safety there from the 1863 New York City draft riots. All of these choices allowed Weeksville to become a home for the city's abolitionists, a place where radical thinkers could exchange ideas. Here, too, was the birthplace of Dr. McKinney Stewart, the first female black New Yorker to earn a medical degree. And yet the story of Weeksville greatness is also a story of greatness that came to a premature end. Its cemetery was dug up to make way for Eastern Parkway, its identity as a hub of black sanctuary forgotten. I am thankful for the work of James Hurley, who rediscovered this site in 1968, and for Joan Maynard, who led efforts to preserve Weeksville's history. It is because of them, as well as many others, that New Yorkers and City Hall can look to Weeksville as a guide as we work to build a city where every New Yorker can afford a dignified life. To deliver that city will not only require the same level of thoughtfulness that James Weeks and others led with nearly 2 centuries ago. It will also demand the same willingness to put working New Yorkers first. Now, you know that I speak often about the importance of taxing the rich and ensuring the wealthiest New Yorkers and most profitable corporations pay their fair share. In response, I often hear about an imagined exodus such a policy choice would prompt. After I share the fact that our city is home to more millionaires today than we were when the state raised taxes on millionaires in 2021, I then ask about the exodus that we're already facing. Over the past 2 decades, more than 200,000 black New Yorkers have left our city. Because childcare costs have become too prohibitive, rent too unaffordable, buses too slow. That is a very real, very tangible exodus. And it is measured in storefronts that sit shuttered, in neighborhoods that feel more hollow than before, in schools with fewer students in their classrooms. We can and will do more to ensure that New York stays home to all those who want to call it as such. Like the leaders of Weeksville, we now look to them as an example for how City Hall can use the fullest extent of our power to improve black New Yorkers' lives across this city. Over the coming weeks and months and years, we will make universal childcare a reality for every family in this city. We will protect homeowners, protect homeowners, by taking on deed theft while breaking new ground on affordable housing across our city. And yes, we will also make the slowest buses in the United States of America fast and free. As we reflect upon the urgency of this work, I'm reminded of an exhibit that is currently on display here, In Search of Sugarcane, by Latasha N. Nevada Diggs. It tells the story of a black woman's slow displacement from her Harlem apartment, preserving her mementos and memories at an altar, and in that way, keeping them alive, creating a space of what she calls sacred time. Standing in the exhibit, you feel the profound loss of displacement as well as her refusal to be erased. It is a story that is all too familiar to many black New Yorkers. My friends, as we celebrate this incredible day, and as we celebrate Black History Month here, let us also recommit ourselves to ensuring that black history can continue to be written in our city. And may the memory of Weeksville light our way. Thank you very much. And with that being said, it is my pleasure to introduce Afia Atamensa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the team here at Weeksville. Thank you to the elected officials who have joined us this morning. And of course, hello, Brooklyn. My name is Afia Atamensa, and I'm the New York City's Chief Equity Officer and Commissioner of NYC's Office of Equity and Racial Justice. It is an absolute honor to be joined here today in celebrating the restoration of the Hunterfly Road houses. We're standing where Black New Yorkers built homes, churches, schools, businesses, and civic institutions. They built a thriving town, a place where Black families could live with dignity, organize for progress, and shape their own futures. But history is not only about what is built, it is also about what is buried. By the turn of the 20th century, development pressures surrounded and swallowed up Weeksville. Its presence faded from public memory. Yet in the 1970s, several of its iconic houses were rediscovered and community leaders fought to protect them. Because of that advocacy, we are here today, not just to look at preserved buildings, but to stand inside a recovered legacy. Weeksville is not only an essential part of Brooklyn's Black history, as was said before, it is an essential part of American history. It reminds us that people have always had to create refuge when the law and the powerful made life unsafe. That truth is not distant. It calls us right now to protect dignity, belonging, and the right to live without fear. Cultural preservation must be central to equitable development. When we invest in places like Weeksville, we are investing in identity, in education, and in community power. Today's celebration is also part of broader work to advance racial and gender equity citywide. Preserving Weeksville is equity in action. It is a recognition that Black history is not a footnote, it is foundational. It is a commitment to telling the truth about who built this city and ensuring that those communities can continue to thrive here. I encourage everyone to tour this remarkable historic site, to learn about its residents, and to engage with the dynamic programming happening here today. The spirit of self-determination that defined Weeksville's founding still lives on within these walls. This restoration safeguards more than historic homes. It preserves a story of resilience, freedom, and possibility, a story that continues to shape and inspire New York City's future. Thank you, and it is my pleasure to introduce Assemblymember Latrice Walker.
Good morning or good afternoon. I walked past the entrance and I was really amazed by the fact that so many of you felt it was important enough on these last days of Black History Month to celebrate our Black brilliance, our Black.
All right, let's head to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We want to go back to NYC Mayor Zohran Mamdani speaking earlier today, and this comes after his meeting with President Trump regarding the Columbia student that was detained a couple of days ago. Let's take a listen to what's being said right now.
Good morning and welcome to Weeksville Heritage Center. We are honored to gather with Mayor Mamdani, our elected officials, partners, and community members as we mark the complete.
That being said, it is my pleasure to introduce Afia Atamensa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the team here at Weeksville. Thank you to the elected officials who have joined us this morning. And of course, hello, Brooklyn. My name is Afia Atamensa, and I'm the New York City's Chief Equity Officer and Commissioner of NYC's Office of Equity and Racial Justice. It is an absolute honor to be joined here today in celebrating the restoration of the Hunterfly Road houses. We're standing where Black New Yorkers built homes, churches, schools, businesses, and civic institutions. They built a thriving town, a place where Black families could live with dignity, organize for progress, and shape their own futures. But history is not only about what is built, it is also about what is buried. By the turn of the 20th century, development pressures surrounded and swallowed up Weeksville. Its presence faded from public memory. Yet in the 1970s, several of its iconic houses were rediscovered and community leaders fought to protect them. Because of that advocacy, we are here today, not just to look at preserved buildings, but to stand inside a recovered legacy. Weeksville is not only an essential part of Brooklyn's Black history, as was said before, it is an essential part of American history. It reminds us that people have always had to create refuge when the law and the powerful made life unsafe. That truth is not distant. It calls us right now to protect dignity, belonging, and the right to live without fear. Cultural preservation must be central to equitable development. When we invest in places like Weeksville, we are investing in identity, in education, and in community power. Today's celebration is also part of broader work to advance racial and gender equity citywide. Preserving Weeksville is equity in action. It is a recognition that Black history is not a footnote, it is foundational. It is a commitment to telling the truth about who built this city and ensuring that those communities can continue to thrive here. I encourage everyone to tour this remarkable historic site, to learn about its residents, and to engage with the dynamic programming happening here today. The spirit of self-determination that defined Weeksville's founding still lives on within these walls. This restoration safeguards more than historic homes. It preserves a story of resilience, freedom, and possibility, a story that continues to shape and inspire New York City's future. Thank you. And it is my pleasure to introduce Assemblymember Latrice Walker.
Good morning or good afternoon. I walked past the entrance and I was really amazed by the fact that so many of you felt it was important enough on these last days of Black History Month to celebrate our Black brilliance, our Black determination, and our Black community. We recognize that while we are here at the Hunterfly homes, this was not necessarily a place of happiness. When people were escaping slavery in the South, even in the North, they experienced fear of someday being captured and taken back to a place where they thought that they would never have to revisit. And many of those individuals, till this day, still recognize that same threat, that same fear. We know that the Constitution determined that slavery was abolished, except in the case of criminal punishment. But each and every day, as we take away resources from education and we put them into mass incarceration, we are returning our people to a place of slavery which existed in the very days that Weeksville was created. But guess what? Weeksville is not weak. It is is stronger today than it has ever been. And it is always a pleasure to be able to stand hand in hand with all of our colleagues in government to recognize just how important it is to preserve this legacy, this rich legacy from Brooklyn, New York, to the African burial grounds in Lower Manhattan, to Timbuktu, upstate. The ravage of fear is still upon us. And it may have taken us 400 years to get to a place where we can celebrate the restoration of the Hunter-Fly homes. But these simple victories will take an eternity for us to protect. I know that this has been an 18-month journey to renovate this historic site. I, of course, want to acknowledge our amazing mayor, Mayor Zohran Mamdani, right? Our Deputy Borough President, Kim Council. And we also want to acknowledge the support of City Council Member Darlene Mealy, State Senator Zelnor Myrie, and representatives from other offices. I want to thank the Department of Cultural Affairs and the New York City Department of Design and Construction for leading the renovation project, because the city came through with $4 million. I stand before you as a longtime supporter of the Weeksville Heritage Center and the work that President and CEO Dr. Raymond Codrington has been doing since he took the helm almost 5 years ago. Feels like an eternity. He has worked diligently not only to preserve the history of Weeksville, but to also make it a destination for contemporary Black art and culture. I learned at a very early age never to come to a party empty-handed. So, Dr. Codrington? Yes. We recognize that we are in this place, and it's raining in here. Big check. And so it's important for us to put the type of financial infrastructure resources that we need to not just preserve the grounds, but also the edifices that we allow to encapsulate all of the brilliance that our communities gather here so often for. And so on behalf of our office, we present this $2 million check for the renovation of the Cultural Arts Building and the Hunter-Fly Road System on behalf of the New York State Assembly. The $2 million in capital funds will help to build on the success of the center, especially in its efforts to preserve the history of Weeksville, one of the largest free Black communities in the Civil War. But there's more. As you know, I was the chair of the 55th Annual Legislative Conference hosted by the New York State Association of Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislators. During this conference, Governor Hochul announced an additional $1 million investment in the Weeksville Heritage Center, which is a demonstration of our collective commitments to celebrate and preserve African American history. This incredible news, coupled with the, of course, amazing announcement made today here by our mayor, is not just for Weeksville, but it's also for the entire borough of Brooklyn. I'm confident that these investments will go a long way toward keeping the heritage of the Weeksville Heritage Center long and strong. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for inviting me to be a part of this celebration. I wish you nothing but continued success. Thank you, everyone. I am Assemblymember Latrice Walker.
It is my pleasure to call upon Deputy Borough President Kim Council.
How in the name of God am I supposed to follow that, Latrice? How? The check is in the mail. As we said, I'm Reverend Kim Council, the Deputy Borough President. I bring greetings on behalf of our Borough President, the Honorable Antonio Reynoso. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be here today. As a matter of fact, I ended my day here last night with the Black History Month celebration with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and I'm excited to be here again this morning. This particular space holds personal relevance for me. because right up the street at 1635 Bergen Street is a church that was founded in 1850 by abolitionists and freed blacks. At a time when there was so much going on in our city. And here we are in February, the coldest month of the year, the shortest month of the year, where we celebrate. Today, this month, we're celebrating 100 years of celebrating the history of stolen people. And having learned that New York State, I believe, New York City was second only to Charleston in how many slaves it owned. Even though slavery ended in New York State in like about 1828, so many years before the Emancipation Proclamation, there were so many different things that were happening in our city. And so for these abolitionists and freemen to come together and to establish this community, to know that the people who founded the church lived on Hunter Fly Road, to know of Miss Joan Maynard's advocacy, and then Pamela Green after her, and am grateful for the stewardship of Dr. Codrington, and for each and every one of you who are here today. Let us never forget the struggle. Let us never forget the sacrifice. Let us continue to support the institution and the people. This neighborhood is evidence of what is possible when we tie our ropes together. We cannot do it by ourselves. We need everyone working together in order to create a more equitable society. I'm incredibly thankful for Mayor Mamdani and all of the work that he is doing and continues to do to support these cultural institutions, of which Brooklyn is blessed. But I'm really, really, really happy to be here today to cut this ribbon for these Hunter Fly houses because of the significance that they mean to Brooklyn and to my people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much to all of our speakers. We're going to take some questions now. Let's please try to keep it to one question if possible. And we have a microphone right here from Audra. So we're going to start with NJ at Channel 7.
Thank you. Mayor, welcome back.
Thank you.
You described your meeting with President Trump as productive. In what sense was it productive? And I also want to ask you whether naming the finished product actually came up.
It was a productive meeting in the sense that after our first meeting in the Oval Office, one of the topics of conversation that we focused on was housing. Housing, not only because it was the foremost and continues to be the foremost crisis in New York City, but also because it's a place of immense interest in this moment across the political spectrum. And I knew that leaving that meeting, it was my responsibility to return with tangible proposals for what a partnership could look like in building exactly that in New York City. I stood with the president looking at a portrait of FDR the last time I was in the Oval Office, and I had shared the fact that who I believe to be the greatest mayor in New York City history, Fiorello LaGuardia, so much of his success was tied to his partnership with the federal government and how that could continue to be a model in the years to come. And so in working with my team, we sought to answer the question of what could it look like to bring that kind of partnership back to New York City at a scale that's needed to address this crisis. And so we put forward a proposal to build more housing in a single project than the city has seen since 1973. More housing than you would get combining Hudson Yards and Battery Park City together. And not just housing, but also parks, also childcare, also hospitals, an entire new neighborhood. And I was heartened by the fact that the president was interested in this proposal, and I anticipate it will be the subject of conversations to continue.
Sorry, go ahead, move on. Ayana, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor. Who initiated the meeting with the president yesterday? Did he invite you? Did your office reach out? About how long was the conversation? And did any other topics come up aside from housing and the detained students? Did you guys discuss ICE enforcement in New York City, the funding, federal funding to help potentially close the budget gap here in New York City?
So this meeting took place in part of a larger context of the last meeting that I had with the president, where we left that meeting knowing that we would continue to be in conversation and to have meetings, always bringing it back to how we can serve this city. And I've said that time and again that I will speak to anyone to ensure that we can advance the agenda of keeping New Yorkers in New York. And the focus of the conversation came back to what it would look like to partner with the city to create this scale of housing, what it would look like to create the largest rail deck in the world, larger than that of Paris, than that of Hong Kong. We spoke about the detention of the Columbia student that morning, and I shared my concerns as part of my long-standing belief that ICE raids are not only cruel, they also do nothing to advance the cause of public safety. And I care very deeply about public safety in our city, and we have continued to focus on delivering exactly that. And I shared with the President that I thought that these continued detentions, as well as cases of those who are out of detention but face the prospect of having to be forced back into detention, do nothing to advance that cause, and I asked for those cases to be dropped.
Thank you. Melissa, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, Melissa.
In the latest Department of Homeland Security press release last night, or statement, they seem to imply that the intention was not to detain Eli Yagayeva, that they just released her because she's been placed into removal proceedings. And I'm just wondering, during your advocacy with President Trump, what do you think the winning argument was? And did they reverse course?
All I can tell you is what happened, which is that I shared directly with the President a list of names of Columbia students and those who've also been detained because of their activity on Columbia campus, and that these actions do nothing to advance the cause of public safety. And I asked that these cases be dropped, and the President said that he would look into it. Soon after the meeting, I received a phone call from the President saying that he was going to imminently release her.
Thank you.
A few of them are Columbia students. One of them was detained on the basis of her being present on Columbia campus at a protest.
Thanks. We'll go to Henry, and then we'll go to Sahaley.
Thank you, Audrey. Hi, Mayor. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
Back to the housing proposal.
Yes.
What assurances give you that he would follow through, especially given that he has worked to actually defund some of the major infrastructure projects of the tri-state area? And why bring this one forward when it's so cost-intensive to cover the rail yard? Could billions not be used better to build more housing elsewhere?
So the President shared his interest in the proposal, and I am encouraged by the fact that we will continue to talk about this proposal. It is going to be a long process. We are speaking about an idea that had its first beginnings in the 60s. Beginnings in the 60s and 70s and 80s. It's a long-standing proposal. The reason to focus on this one specifically is we know that land is so precious and so finite. Here lies an opportunity to create more of it by creating the largest rail deck the world has ever seen. And then on top of that rail deck, building more housing than we've seen since the construction of co-op houses and Co-op City. And that presents within it an opportunity to deal with a housing crisis where right now we know there are far too few homes in New York City, even for those who already call New York City home, let alone for those who want to join us in this city.
Thank you.
He said that he was interested and that the conversation would continue. Thank you.
We'll go to Haley and then Joe right next.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, Saley.
Did you speak to any local, thank you. I wanted to ask about the Sunnyside Yard project as well. Did you speak to any local electeds in that area about the project in advance to your meeting with President Trump? And if not, what conversations are you planning to have in the near future?
You know, we've had a few conversations across elected officials, labor organizers. Those conversations will continue because this is a long-standing project that will also require a long-standing commitment, and we're just at the very beginning of it. And I broached this with the President because of the fact that this is one of the busiest rail yards in the entire continent, frankly. And the city cannot build on these rail yards without the approval and direction of the federal government. It will also require the federal government shifting a few policies as it pertains to bond caps and risk sharing, all of which are impossible for the city to do on its own.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Joe, go ahead, and then we'll go to Inside Edition.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, how are you doing?
Joe. How's it going? Sorry, I was looking for you.
Yeah. I'm here, not on the floor, in the chair.
Yes.
Could you tell me how the meeting came about, who approached who, and when? And I was also wondering if you can explain a little more broadly, you know, on the campaign trail, you had a very different posture saying you would be kind of the president's worst nightmare. Since taking office, you really have gone to great lengths, I think, to not criticize him and foster this relationship. It's very different than most Democrats in the country. Can you tell us why, you're taking this tack?
So I said over the course of the campaign that I will always be honest and direct with New Yorkers about my views. The President and I have many disagreements, which we share publicly and we share privately. And I also said on that same campaign trail that I would be willing to work with anyone, no matter disagreements, so long as it was to the benefit of the city that we love. That is what it comes back to. Every conversation has to be advancing the agenda of working New Yorkers. And when we think about 12,000 new homes for working and middle-class New Yorkers, we see the possibility of so many more people being able to put roots down here in this city. And this was a meeting that was scheduled as part of following conversations from the prior meeting, which was in November. There was always a sense that that would continue. It's, as you know, not the first meeting I've had with the President. It won't be the last. And we will also continue to advocate for anything and everything that can help New Yorkers continue to remain in New York.
Thanks. Go ahead.
And so when it was planned?
I think this came in the aftermath of the prior meeting. I would say that finalizing the dates, I'm not sure exactly when it was, but it's just part of a long exactly when it was, which is one that was chiefly responsible for digging New Yorkers' cars out of the snow, of digging out ambulances, MTA buses, keeping the city moving in that manner. And for that work and everything that they do, I'm deeply appreciative. And what I've said in regards to the snowball fight is that it's a snowball fight that got out of hand, and I don't really have much more to say to it.
The charge, do you have a reaction to that? Answer the question.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to Sam and then Dana. Right to your left.
Right.
You the microphone? Sam, right there. Thank
Hi,
you.
Mayor. How's it going?
How are you?
I have a couple questions. One is that work requirements for SNAP go into effect on Sunday, and I'm wondering if you're confident that HRA has the staff and the capacity needed to deal with that paperwork and the requirements. Do you think the governor should step in with payments to help out? My second question is if the city council staffer who had been detained by ICE also came up in your conversations with Trump.
So I'll say that I'm incredibly appreciative of the governor's partnership for advancing the needs of our city, and she also stepped in the last time around. We saw providing additional funding in SNAP benefits to ensure that so many New Yorkers would continue to be able to put food on the table. I actually recall during Veterans Day, I sat with a number of veterans, and one pulled me aside to say that that infusion from the governor was critical in him being able to continue to eat that week. And so I think what the governor has done in the past has been truly significant and helpful, and I am confident in HRA, and I also know that the tasks in front of HRA and city agencies only continue to increase. I always believe in their ability to meet the moment, but also our city administration's commitment to helping them in doing so. And the names that we spoke about specifically were the ones in the context around students who were being detained on or around campus. However, it was within a conversation where I made clear, and I will always make clear, that I believe that ICE raids at large are ones that are cruel and do nothing to advance public safety.
Thank you. Dana, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, Dana.
When you say that the president expressed interest in the proposal, what precisely do you mean?
I think that the president was interested in the idea of working together to build 12,000 homes, and that this was a long-standing idea that has not yet come to fruition. And within that lies an opportunity to deliver a new scale of development in this city, and one that starts to resolve an issue that you will find on the tips of the tongue of any New Yorker across the city, which is housing, and how New Yorkers can afford to live in this city. And also, a critical part of this proposal is that half of the homes would be Mitchell-Lama homes, which have been considered time and again by so many, including by the president, as being critical to the stability of middle-class New Yorkers and their ability to lay down roots in the city they call home.
Thanks. Josie, go ahead. And then we'll go to Heather.
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Hey, Josie.
On the campaign trail, you talked about how you and the NYPD would be in lockstep because you're the mayor and your commissioner is below you as your commissioner. That kind of hasn't panned out lately. I'm wondering if you can respond to that, as well as the hiring of Fred Kriesman. Was he on the list your admin presented to the outgoing Adams administration to clear house before you took office?
So I don't know the specifics on the second question. I can tell you on the first is that I appreciate the work of my police commissioner, Commissioner Tisch, who has been doing the work to ensure that we're delivering public safety. And that's work that we do in tandem. That's work that we do also by being in constant communication with each other. And I think what New Yorkers are focused on is, are they safe in the city that they call home? And that's the work that she's leading on.
Thank you. We've got time for 2 more. Okay, we're going to go Heather right here and then Catherine.
Hi, Mayor. How are
Hi.
you?
How's it going?
If you secure this federal funding, realistically, what is the timeline of actually getting shovels in the ground and bringing these homes online for people to be moving in?
I think this will take many, many years. However, we are not daunted by the length of the project. We also know that it's one that has been decades in the making. And so many of us, we aspire to help to build a city that can build in the same manner that it used to. You know, earlier we were thanking a number of elected officials, and one of them is State Senator Zelnor Myrie. And I recall he would share again and again that the Empire State Building was built in 13 months. Today, that sounds as if it is an idea of fantasy. And it is critically important that we do not fear the scale of these kinds of projects or think that they are impossible to deliver on. We actually have to do everything we can to bring them to fulfillment.
Thanks. All right, if you could pass the microphone just right here to Catherine. Last question. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor. You said that conversations with President Trump will be an ongoing conversation. Did you schedule a meeting for future, or when do you plan to go back? Does he have plans to come here to meet with you? How is that going?
I can't give you the specifics of when exactly we'll meet again. I will tell you, however, that as the mayor of our city, I will always look to keep an open line of communication with the president of our country, and to do so always with the interests of New Yorkers in mind. And that means making clear where there is disagreement, making clear where there is prospect for partnership, and always at the core of it asking, how can we make it easier for New Yorkers to live in the most expensive city in the United States of America? How can we make it easier for them to live here, for them to be safe here, and for them to dream here? Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, that's the press conference from earlier from New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Well, NASA's plan to return humans to the moon is changing course. The space agency outlined a new path for its Artemis moon mission. There was a press conference earlier today with updates. Let's take a listen in.
Everyone, appreciate everyone coming out. We're seeing each other a lot lately, lots of updates. expect more of it. First, I just want to give a lot of credit to the NASA workforce and our partners that have been working really tirelessly through the Artemis campaign. It's really especially impressive work, and I know they're all feeling it after we had what was a near flawless Wet Dress 2 performance. That Artemis 2 is now back in the vehicle assembly building, which is imperfect. So we want to give you two sets of updates. Lori is going to speak with you about what we're learning about Artemis 2 now that it is back in the VAB, and what our path is back out to the pad and to launch this historic mission. But before that, I'd like to talk a little bit about the overall Artemis program, how we're going to achieve the President's objective to return American astronauts to the moon, to build an enduring presence, and ideally not wind up in some of the situations that we've seen recently. So let's talk about the situation. Artemis 1 launched more than 3 years ago. We had helium leaks with Artemis 1. I'm sorry, we had hydrogen leaks with Artemis 1. We had helium flow issues with Artemis 1. Artemis 2 went out to the pad. Wet Dress 1, we had hydrogen leaks. And then after a second Wet Dress 2, where we made a lot of great progress, we wound up with helium flow issues. A lot of similarities between the two. And why is that essentially the case? Look, 3+ year launch cadence. I mean, Artemis 3 right now, as it's currently designed, won't fly for approximately another 3 years. So launching a rocket as important and as complex as SLS every 3 years is not a path to success. A component of that is when you are launching every 3 years, your skills atrophy. You lose muscle memory. We've got a lot of really talented folks that have been working hard on the Artemis 2 campaign, and whether they're going to want to stick around for 3 more years after this mission is complete is a question mark. This is just not the right pathway forward. And I'd say also, when you are experiencing some of the same issues between launches, you're probably got to take a close look at your process for remediation. Are you truly getting the technical root cause, or are you getting close to it? So we've got issues with low flight rate. And I would say a great way to exacerbate that problem further is to start making changes to vehicle configuration. SLS is a very impressive vehicle. We don't want to turn every one of them into a work of art. And then I would also say that having very big objectives, a wide objective gap between missions is also not a pathway to success. So we didn't go right to Apollo 11, right? We had a whole Mercury program, Gemini, Apollo, lots of Apollo missions before we ultimately landed. Right now, our program is essentially set up with an Apollo 8 and then going right to the moon. And that is again, not a pathway to success. So what is the right way forward here? So first, today we're announcing a standardization of the SLS fleet to what we'll call essentially a near Block 1 configuration. So the idea is we want to reduce complexity to the greatest extent possible. We want to accelerate manufacturing, pull in the hardware, and increase launch rate, which obviously has a direct safety consideration to it as well. You get into a good rhythm launching great frequency, you get that muscle memory. In order to do that, we need to rebuild and strengthen the workforce here at NASA. Now, this is directly in line with a workforce directive that I released several weeks ago. We have to rebuild core competencies. The ability to turn around our launch pads and launch with frequency greater than every 3 years is imperative. Now, some people ask me questions on that already as we've talked about this, and it's like, how are we going to do that? How we can go from 3 years to something significantly less, to what I think should actually be inside of 1 year? And I'll point you to our history. We have a nice infographic that's coming out from Mercury, Gemini, Apollo through the shuttle program. I don't think it would surprise many of the folks in the room that our average launch cadence was closer to 3 months throughout all those programs, not 3 years. In fact, if you want a history tidbit, you look at the time when Apollo 7 splashed down to when Apollo 8 launched, you're approximately 2 months apart. We need to start getting back to basics and moving in this direction. So rebuilding the civil servant workforce and restoring core capabilities. Again, that will directly contribute to NASA's launch cadence, where we're going to endeavor to get our launches inside of a year, specifically down to potentially 10 months. And then we are going to add missions. In fact, we're essentially going to pull in Artemis 3. to launch in 2027 with a revised mission profile. So instead of going directly to a lunar landing, we will endeavor to rendezvous in low Earth orbit with one or both of our lunar landers, test out integrated operations between Orion and the landers, ECLIS systems, even to the extent possible, if we can get up development components of our XEVA suits to test out vehicle interfaces, even just getting an astronaut in a suit in microgravity, we can learn a lot with the idea that we should be learning and take this information back to inform hardware development, whether it's in the landers or in the suits before Artemis 4, where we will attempt to land on the moon. We are also, as a component of the strategy, endeavoring to preserve up to 2 landing attempts in 2028. So if we get it inside of the 10-month turnaround time that we would like to see, Artemis 2 will launch on its historic mission in the weeks ahead. Artemis 3 will have its opportunity, if we can, by mid-2027, which sets us up for an early 28 and a late 28 opportunity. So that is the approach that we are taking at a very high level. I will tell you, we're not surprising our industry or our stakeholders at this press conference right now. We've been having these discussions for a long time. In fact, I give a lot of credit to NASA and its team. No one at NASA forgot their history books. They knew how to do this. They've had plans like this for a long time. Now we're putting it in action. We had a chance to have these discussions across all of our industry partners, all of the prime contractors on the SLS vehicle, both of our HLS landing providers. Everybody agrees this is the only way forward. And I'll say, had similar conversations with all our stakeholders in Congress, and they're fully behind NASA in this approach. They know this is how NASA changed the world, and this is how NASA is going to do it again. With that, I'll hand it over to Ahmed.
Thank you, sir. Let's see, the path forward that the administrator laid out, I think, is pretty clear. It reduces risk, it strengthens our ability to execute these missions and the campaign ahead of us. It reflects the adjustments that we need to keep our schedule credible and our teams focused on what matters most, which is safe and achievable missions. And also, I think it's important that we talk a little bit about the Artemis 2 crew. This is for them also. When they get on top of that rocket, they need to know that they're doing it as part of a step, as part of a plan that's going to work. That they have said many times they're doing this mission so that their teammates can walk on the moon. They need to know that they're going to get on top of that rocket, so that we're going to give them a plan for the rest of the team that's going to be assigned, that's going to go do this work to actually get to the moon. So our update today reinforces that commitment to them, that when we ask them to take that risk, when we take that risk together, that they're doing it for a reason. So we're going to build that program grounded in safety, incremental learnings, technical excellence, and long-term sustainability. So I think it's, our commitment to flight readiness, this is not about slowing down momentum. This is about increasing it, about making sure that we are focused on the right things in terms of how we execute the program. We need to get back to doing the workforce initiative that the administrator has directed us to implement is the absolute key ingredient to this. We need to get our teams working side by side with our partners outside and get this work done. So it's challenging, it's ambitious, but with this course correction, we are on a more stable foundation, a more realistic path to the milestones we have ahead. And we're so grateful to the teams across the NASA centers, across all of industry that's helping us. We have the entire force of American industry now helping us with the Artemis campaign. We are grateful to them for their support. They have been relentless in driving progress, and we need them to be even more relentless to achieve these missions. And this plan that we're laying out today makes that possible. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Glaze to talk about Artemis 2.
Thank you, Ahmed. I'd like to start by thanking the administrator for taking this incredibly bold step and moving quickly to assure that we have support and resources that are needed in order to launch Artemis astronauts to the moon every year. I want to thank our team as well within the Moon to Mars program on Artemis and all of our Artemis mission planning. Our teams continue to work tirelessly to enable mission success. I know to people outside of NASA, sometimes we make it look easy, what we are doing is anything but easy, and we've seen that with the challenges that we've encountered. I've said time and time again that our team rises to challenges and they meet any bar that is set. This will be a challenge, and I know that we will continue to relentlessly pursue excellence at every step, and that includes not just our NASA team, but it includes, again, our contractor workforce and all of the suppliers that contribute at every level to the success of the Artemis space program. So first things first, I'm going to talk about Artemis 2. We were here just a week ago. We were all very excited last Friday after the successful wet dress rehearsal. We were in a great place at that time and looking at a launch in early March. Things changed pretty quickly last Friday evening, where we discovered the issue with the flow of helium to the ICPS, the upper stage of the SLS. That occurred as we were doing the reconfiguration of the SLS as we transitioned from the wet dress into the launch configuration. So that was it was disappointing, but that's where we were. And the response of our team was exactly what we should be doing. We allowed the data to talk to us and tell us what we needed to do, and allowed those findings, the operational findings, to guide us in what decisions that we needed to make. And the data were pretty clear that we were no-go. We were in a no-go situation without the ability to flow the helium to the RL-10 engines of the upper stage. So while we have the ability to access the boosters and the core stage out at the pad, we were in preparations already for being able to do the work that needed to be done out at the pad. We do not have the ability to access the interior of the upper stage at the pad. So that's what's the requirement to roll back to the vehicle assembly.
All right, that is our time here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Coming up next, WCNC Plus on the pitch, Charlotte FC preparing for LA Galaxy. Have a great night.